The first time I saw the documents in Mark's desk drawer, my hands went cold. Not because of the thick, cream-colored paper with my grandparents' estate letterhead, or even because my own signature appeared on the last page. No, it was the name typed neatly beside mine that made my pulse stumble. Trustee, Mark H. Dalton. My husband's name. My husband, who wasn't supposed to have anything to do with it. For a moment, I couldn't even breathe. I just stared at it, the ink shimmering faintly under the late afternoon light seeping through the blinds. My mind replayed the memory of that day, 18 months ago, when I'd gone behind everyone's back to protect what my grandparents had left me. I remembered the lawyer's warning, "Don't let anyone, access this trust unless you approve it personally, Emma." And yet, here it was. His name. His access. His betrayal, so elegantly printed on legal parchment. Mark came home 15 minutes later, whistling. He'd been at the gym, or so he said, still wearing that faint citrus scent I once adored but now made me nauseous. I slid the papers back into the drawer, closed it quietly, and tried to slow my heartbeat. "Hey, you're home early," he said, flashing that easy grin, the one that used to make me feel safe. "Yeah," I managed. Meeting ended sooner than expected. He kissed my forehead, then moved toward the kitchen. I watched him, his calm, unhurried movements, the casual confidence of a man who believed he had everything under control. I almost admired it. Almost. The clatter of ice cubes filled the silence. "You look tense," he said over his shoulder. "Rough day." "You have no idea," I wanted to say. Instead, I forced a small laugh. "Just tired." But as I watched him pour whiskey into a glass, I noticed something that sent a fresh wave of dread through me: his watch. A Patek Philippe. The one I'd refused to buy last year because it cost more than my car. Mark never could afford that watch. Not legally, anyway. That night, lying beside him, I listened to the rhythm of his breathing and wondered how long he'd been lying to me. How long had he known about the trust? How long had he been pretending? My mind wouldn't stop spinning. I tried to piece together moments that suddenly felt tainted: his insistence that I let him handle our accountant, his late nights at work, his sudden interest in my family's affairs after my grandparents passed away. The betrayal felt personal, not just financial. Because this wasn't about money. It was about trust. Something sacred, something I'd given freely, believing he'd protect me, not prey on me. The next morning, I called the lawyer, quietly, from my car. "Emma." His tone sharpened when I mentioned the papers. "That's impossible. No one can be added as trustee without your signed consent." "I'm looking at the document right now," I whispered. "It has my signature." There was a pause. A long, heavy one. "Can you send me a photo of it?" I did. A few minutes later, my phone rang again. "This is a forgery," he said flatly. "A good one, but definitely not your signature." I stared at the steering wheel, my throat dry. "So what does that mean?" "It means someone forged your approval to gain access to the estate." A beat. "And if Mark is listed as trustee, I suggest you act fast." That evening, I didn't confront him. Not yet. I watched. I waited. I studied him the way you study a stranger who used to feel like home. He was affectionate, almost overly so. He made dinner, joked about work, even poured me wine. Every smile felt like a performance, every word rehearsed. And as I played along, a strange calm settled over me. Because I realized something. Mark didn't know I knew. That was my advantage. Days turned into weeks as I quietly gathered proof. Bank statements. Emails. Phone logs. Tiny threads that, when pulled, revealed an entire web of deceit. He'd been transferring small amounts, $10,000 here, $25,000 there, into a separate account. Not enough to raise alarms, but over 18 months, it added up to nearly $500,000. Worse, the money trail led to another name, Elena. The first time I saw it, I thought maybe it was a business partner. A client. Until I saw the wire memo. Payment for condo. Elena. Condo. Miami. That's when it hit me. He wasn't just stealing. He was building a life somewhere else. The confrontation came on a Friday night. Rain hammered against the windows. The air was thick with electricity, like the world itself was bracing for impact. He walked in, shaking off his umbrella. "You're home early again," he said, loosening his tie. I looked up from the kitchen table, where the documents were spread out in neat, damning rows. "We need to talk." He froze. Just slightly. Then recovered with a casual smile. "Sounds serious." "It is." He approached slowly, his eyes darting across the table. The moment he saw the papers, the mask cracked. Just a flicker, but I saw it. That tiny, involuntary flicker of fear. "Where did you get these?" he asked, voice low. "I could ask you the same thing," I said. "How long, Mark? How long have you been forging my signature? Moving money? Lying to me?" He swallowed hard. "You don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly." My voice trembled, but I didn't stop. "You used me. You married me for access. You built an entire future on my family's legacy." "It's not like that," he snapped. "You think I don't love you?" The words burned. "Love?" I laughed bitterly. "You stole from me." He slammed his hand on the table, scattering papers. "I did it for us, Emma. You were too busy protecting your precious inheritance to see what we could have done with it." "We?" My voice broke. "Or you and Elena." The silence that followed was deafening. He didn't deny it. Didn't even blink. That was when something inside me, something fragile and hopeful, finally died. I left that night. I packed one bag, took the original trust documents from the safe, and drove to my sister's house. I didn't cry, not then. The shock was too deep, the betrayal too absolute. It wasn't until 3 days later, sitting alone in a lawyer's office, that I finally broke. Not because of the money, or even the affair, but because I'd once believed that Mark and I were unshakable. That we were built on love, not convenience. But betrayal, I realized, doesn't just destroy trust. It rewrites history. Every memory, every moment, re-examined under a new, cruel light. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. Mark avoided jail by settling privately, returning most of what he'd taken. Elena disappeared from the picture, though rumor had it she'd moved to Spain with whatever scraps he had left. I thought that was the end of it. Until last week. A letter arrived. No return address. Just my name, written in his familiar handwriting. Inside was a single photograph. My grandparents' old estate, the one I'd protected so carefully. And behind it, a note. "You were right to hide it. But you were never the only one who knew where the real money was." I stared at it, my hands trembling, dread crawling up my spine. Because the estate wasn't just land, it contained my grandparents' private collection of rare art, supposedly valued at another $2 million. And if Mark knew where that was? My stomach twisted. The trust had protected the estate, but not the assets stored within it. Now, I sit here at my kitchen table, the letter beside me, the rain falling again just like that night. Part of me wants to burn it, pretend it never arrived. Another part, the cautious, wounded part that's learned too much, knows better. I pick up my phone and call the lawyer once more. "Emma," he answers, his tone wary. "You sound shaken. What's wrong?" I take a deep breath, eyes on the letter. I think the betrayal isn't over yet.